Star Wars prequel rewrite series. Following after my Phantom Menace rewrite, we have Attack of the Clones, which I ironically would rename Phantom Menace. We're only skipping ahead 6 years after the last film, and yes, I am shortening the age gap between Anakin and Padmé, and Obi-Wan got his Jesus beard. The opening crawl will refer to something like, after the Battle of Naboo, the Republic tried fixing relations with the Outer Rim, but now they have the opposite response. Now a lot of people in the Outer Rim are feeling they're getting suppressed by the core elite, and only caring about the major planets. Secession is basically inevitable. And then we open on a nice cloudy day on Coruscant, and we go straight to Palpatine talking to the important Jedi. Palpatine feels that secession is inevitable and he has to form an army. The Jedi, the Guardians of Peace, are obligated to defend the Republic, but there are also not enough of them. And Yoda says the future is clouded, so he doesn't know if the secession will happen. But Palpatine fears the worst. And then Anno from the Clone Wars calls Palpatine to basically say it's time to discuss. At the Senate, Palpatine makes his case that they need to have a draft. Some people from the Outer Rim, like Prime Minister Olmec, believe that this is outrageous. The Outer Rim gives enough to the Republic, they will not be giving even more. Padmé also disagrees with forming an army, saying that it might just encourage the Separatists. Palpatine doesn't like the idea either, but he says that sometimes you have to enforce peace. Meanwhile, in the elevator, Obi-Wan was the one picked to go to the Senate today to represent the Jedi Council, and he brings Anakin. The two have a banter about how they're late, and how Anakin's nervous he's never been in the Senate before. Just for suddenly, boom! The Senate's bombed! And in flies in a bunch of Mandalorians, being led by a particularly tall Mandalorian in yellow. It's absolute chaos, a lot of senators are injured and getting shot at, and the leader of the team pulls out his double-bladed red lightsaber. Easily slashes through a bunch of Senate guards as he goes to attack Palpatine. But Anakin and Obi-Wan finally arrive and duel the guy, until Anakin goes to get Padmé and Palpatine out of harm's way. Obi-Wan notices the similarities in this guy's lightsaber and says, "That's not true, that's impossible, how'd you survive?" And as more Jedi arrive, the man simply says, "The Phantom walks." He force pushes Obi-Wan away, and everyone escapes, with one Mando writing "The Phantom walks" on the wall with spray paint. Later, the Jedi Council convenes and discusses the Mandalorian attack. Oppo states that it's weird because the Mandalorians haven't been that violent since the time of Revan. Plo Koon agrees, saying that he thought that the Grand Duchy of Mandalore has been pacifistic for the last couple generations. Obi-Wan states that they're members of Death Watch, an extremist group who wants to go back to the old ways of Mandalore. But Kenobi is confused because they've never been so organized before. Eventually the council agrees that the Chancellor and the Senators need protection. Meanwhile, in basically the presidential bomb shelter, Obi-Wan and Anakin tell Palpatine and Padmé that they will be taken to Alderaan for safety. How about that? I actually included Alderaan. They'll be leaving in the morning. That night, Anakin tells Obi-Wan that he's been having dreams about his mother. Obi-Wan reminds him that he's part of the Jedi Order now, so he has to not have those connections anymore. Oh no, an assassination attempt. And then we get our chase scene, which will be roughly similar, but instead of the changeling, it's just Jango. So minor things because of this. Instead of Anakin landing on the speeder, he lands on Jango's back. The two tussle a while, damaging the jetpack. Anakin slips and tears open one of Jango's packs, which spills out a lot of weird-looking darts. Eventually the two crash. The jetpack flies off Jango's back, causing an explosion, which summons the crowd to investigate, which has Jango slip away into it. Later at the bar, Obi-Wan sets a man's life straight. Just as Anakin arrives, Obi-Wan scalds him for not being patient, but Anakin says that if it wasn't for that, he wouldn't have collected some of these. He pulls out the darts. Kenobi congratulates him, saying that he's underestimated Anakin yet again. And now the plan has changed. Anakin will be going to Alderaan with Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon instead of him, as Kenobi researches what his dart's about. He has that deleted scene with the droids trying to analyze it, but after they find nothing, he goes to ask Jocasta about it. But Jocasta is in the middle of teaching a bunch of younglings about the Lost 20 Jedi Masters who left the Jedi Order for one reason or another. Obi-Wan finds her as she's explaining the most recent one, number 20, Maul Opress, former Jedi Padawan of Qui-Gon Jinn, one of the most powerful duelists of his time, believed to even be the chosen one when first discovered. One of the younglings speaks out saying, "Yeah, well, just like half the other lost, he became a Sith. Why should we honor them with a bust?" And then all the younglings get really rowdy, and Jocasta tries calming them down to explain why, but fails, just as Mace Windu enters and yells to settle down. He explains we learn about the Lost 20 because it shows how the Jedi can always improve. They all left the Jedi Order for one reason or another. Some did become Sith, but others left because of other reasons. Some like Revan and Ronan returned to the light later. By studying the Lost 20, we study how to improve. And then Mace makes them all apologize to Jocasta. Obi-Wan asks Jocasta for a moment and discusses the dart, which she has no idea about. And then he starts thinking, Dexter might know. And then Mace cuts in saying he wants to help him with this investigation, if it means stopping the Death Watch attacks and figuring out who the Phantom is. Now, in the first movie, I thought Obi-Wan worked better alone, and ironically, I think he would have worked better with a partner here. Meanwhile, Anakin and the Senators arrive on Alderaan, and we meet Padmé's uncle, Bail Organa. He welcomes everyone, saying that Alderaan is one of the most defensive and peaceful planets in the entire galaxy. And now, as for Anakin and Padmé's romance, I do think a lot of it is kind of awkward, but some of it could still work if they had better direction. And I do think it should be Padmé coming on to Anakin instead. Anakin kind of likes Padmé, but he's conflicted by the Jedi Code. And of course, because we're now on Alderaan, there'll be some small changes, like instead of Anakin riding whatever these are, instead he rides Nerfs. Referenced in Empire Strikes Back, they're basically space buffalo with extra horns and weird tails. And when he rolls around with Padmé, there's an awkward moment. Well, it looks like they're going to kiss, but then Plo Koon interrupts them and later scolds Anakin for having connections. Meanwhile, the Masters, Kenobi tells Mace about Dexter, saying that he's an absolute weapon expert, knows every weapon in the entire known universe, and he's the best cook in the core worlds. We get the diner scene from the original, but of course Mace is there, and he voices visible confusion about the idea of what a clone is because the rest of the galaxy doesn't have those. And if Kamino exists, how the Republic hasn't met them yet. Dex explains that clones are exact copies of people, and Kamino is real. Trust him. It's true. All of it. Meanwhile, on Alderaan, they contact Almec, and he's absolutely offended at the notion that he might be connected to Death Watch, having not even the slightest idea who the Phantom might be. Palpatine is concerned about the future, but Bail assures him that Alderaan will always support the Republic. And we get the actual deleted scene from Attack of the Clones with Mace and Obi-Wan, discussing that the maps must be hiding Kamino, and that Jedi might have deleted Kamino from the records. Obi-Wan's also concerned that Anakin might turn out like Maul, but Mace assures him that he has a good master, setting him on the right path. And the two go to see if Kamino is real, on board a Y-Wing. Back on Alderaan, they go to a Mon Cala opera, and Anakin is put on guard of Palpatine. And then we get early, you ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Basically just the scene from Revenge of the Sith, beginning Anakin's downfall. But at the end, Anakin notes it sounds wrong. But Palpatine assures him that, in moderation, passion gives you strength. Through strength, you gain power. Through power, you gain victory. Meanwhile, the two Masters made it to the Apple Store, and we basically get the same scenes with Kamino. But when the Prime Minister notes that Jango Fett is the person that the clones are based off of, Mace starts getting enraged, and he pulls his lightsaber on the Prime Minister, showing his anger and why he has a purple blade. And he demands to know why did Jango Fett have some Kaminoan darts, asking if he's the Phantom and if the Kaminoans work for Death Watch, which the Prime Minister has no idea what he's referring to, but he does agree to take them to Jango, who is still on Kamino. Meet him and Boba. This scene is the same, but it's Mace doing the talking. Instead of Jango saying that he was hired by Tyranno, he says that he was hired by a Phantom. Back on Alderaan, Anakin has a nightmare about his mom. The scene is also the same, but when Padmé agrees to go with him to Tatooine, C-3PO, who's mostly just been in the background for the movie, tries to stop them, but accidentally goes along with them. Then we get the Jango Kenobi fight. Even with Mace, it's basically the same, as well as the chase scene. Anakin makes it to Tatooine. He has a heartfelt reunion with his stepdad and stepbro, introduction of Beru. But when Anakin asks where his mom is, Klieg says that he hasn't seen her since last night, which gets Anakin mad, and he goes Duel of Fates looking for her. Eventually comes across the Tusken camp. This scene is perfectly fine, but Anakin is now absolutely infuriated at the Sand People. But suddenly, the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn appears, trying to calm down Anakin, saying that he knows he has rage in his heart, but he has to let go. But this doesn't work. Anakin is just so full of rage, he tries stabbing Qui-Gon, but because he's a Force Ghost, it just goes through him, and it hits a Tusken who happened to walk in the tent. And then Anakin has his rampage, returns home with Shni. And again, I think some lines here do work if he just had better direction. Basically still saying that he intends to become the strongest Jedi that ever was, so he can protect those he loves. Minus the part where he admits to killing the Tuskens, women and children. Instead, he just states that Tuskens attacked him. Meanwhile, the Masters made it to not Geonosis, but Mandalore, where they witness a council meeting, where Almec, who, yes, is being played by Christopher Lee in this version, has been bullshitting his entire time here as he is connected to the Death Watch. The council here is made up of only from the original, the Trade Federation and Banking Clan. Instead, we see the Pikes, Black Sun, and they're being guarded by Mandalorians, including the yellow guy from earlier. They claim if they have a few more Death Watch attacks on important core worlds, they might be able to scare some more systems into joining them. They also say they have the pro-Republic Grand Duchess imprisoned. Obi-Wan and Mace try calling Anakin, and they patch him through to Alderaan and Jedi Council, where they explain the clones, Jango Fett, Death Watch, Almec's a traitor, blah blah blah. The two are captured, and Yoda calls in Palpatine and decides the hard decision that he's using the executive powers the Jedi Council has to give Palpatine emergency powers in this dark time. The two Masters are imprisoned, and the yellow guy is guarding them. Obi-Wan tries questioning how is he still alive after what he did to them, where he responds with, "You must be talking about my brother," because, takes his helmet off, "I'm not Maul," revealing that he's Savage Opress, as the real Darth Maul walks in with his bionic legs, saying that Almec is his puppet and how he's the one really behind the Separatist. And yes, he has 3 lightsabers at this point. Kenobi asks how and why.
Of course I survived. Hatred kept my spirit intact even though my body was not. And such is how you found me, brother, discarded, forgotten. I was apprenticed to the most powerful being in the galaxy once, but I was robbed of that destiny by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yes, we shall start with revenge.
Then, like in that one deleted scene, Anakin and Padmé arrive to Mandalore and talk to Almec about releasing the 2 Jedi Masters peacefully. Almec claims to not have any Masters, and of course instead of Geonosians, he's guarded by a bunch of Mandalorians. When that didn't work, they decide to sneak in for the droid factory, and we get this entire scene, and Anakin only drops his lightsaber instead of having it get crushed. But instead of Jango finding them, they're found by Savage. They're about to be executed. Padmé says, "I love you," and Anakin only responds with, "I know," and then they kiss. We actually have 4 people for all 4 pillars. This Coliseum scene is basically the same, but with Maul hanging out in the shadows, until eventually Jango pulls his blasters on Almec and Nute Gunray, saying, "You're under arrest for treason." Plot twist, he's been working for the Republic, which is why he donated his DNA to be cloned, and why Jango led the Jedi to Kamino and Mandalore. As the Jedi arrive, and R2 shoots Anakin's lightsaber out of his head like in Return of the Jedi, And Almec is like, "Brave, but very foolish of you, Foundling." As Maul force pushes him down, where he's trampled by that rhino thing. Note he doesn't have his jetpack anymore. And then we get the Jedi attacking, and it's super chaotic and awesome. Mace executes Jango not knowing any better, which will never come back to bite him. The clones arrive with Yoda, and the evac mission's on. Obi-Wan and Anakin stay behind to go fight Maul, who just slayed a Jedi. It's kind of like that one Clone Wars fight with Maul, Savage fighting Obi-Wan and Ventress. Getting some dual wielding out of Anakin with the random Jedi's lightsaber. Maul taunts Obi-Wan saying that he slayed their former master and seriously injures him. So now it's up to Anakin to fight the two Sith Lords. During the fight, Maul scratches his eye with his bionic claw foot, and it's kind of like that one struggle in that other Clone Wars episode. Maul taunts Anakin, saying that he feels a lot of anger and hatred within him. That's not the Jedi way. Anakin's just angry, and Dual Fate starts kicking up again, and Anakin uses the Force to crush one of Maul's legs, and he trips Savage, cutting off one of his arms, which causes Maul to angrily force push both Anakin and Kenobi far away. Yoda arrives with a bunch of clones, and they manage to evac with Anakin and Kenobi. Later on Coruscant, Mace and Kenobi reflect that at least they got some answers they were looking for, but they still haven't found out who's Maul's Sith Master. But Yoda says that essentially in the future they'll figure it out. As for now, the Clone Wars have begun. And then we get the cool shot of the clones and Anakin watching this from his own window as Kenobi meets him. Kenobi thanks him for saving him back on Mandalore, and a job well done with the Chancellor. Now he deserves a reward. And then we get the knighting ceremony from the 2003 Clone Wars, and Anakin gives Padmé his Padawan tail. No, the two aren't married yet, and Anakin has both arms. Then we see Nute Gunray get called by Sidious. It's time for secession, and if you play your cards right, I can see you live through the Clone Wars. Revealing, ironically, the Trade Federation is still working for Palpatine, under Maul's nose. He wants revenge on Palpatine, but unknowingly is still a pawn of his. The Separatists will mostly have Mandalorian, Pike, Black Sun troops, as well as the Trade Federation's droids, and oddly enough, rebels. The Republic is mostly made up of clone troopers, with like 1 out of 3 being normal recruited humans, all wearing the same kind of armor. But that was how I would rewrite Attack the Clones. Sorry if you didn't like it, glad if you liked it. Let me know your opinions in the comments below.